And being joined now by our good friend Jana Davidson with the Progressive Agriculture Foundation. Jana, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Jesse. How are you?
I am good. I appreciate you joining us as we have our February safety message here with the Progressive Agriculture Foundation. And this month we're talking about burn awareness. And, this is something that it's more common than we probably think about, I would say, because burns can happen in multiple different ways around the home, multiple different sources. Burns can happen not just for adults, but for kids as well.
I agree. And we touch on it at different times throughout the year when we talk about fire prevention in the fall and October. But a lot of that focus gets on to, using, having working smoke alarms and things like that to prevent fires, which is very important. But burns can happen so quickly. So it is nice that there is some attention this month on that topic.
Well, and as we're looking as well, we have Burn Awareness Week, and that's a pretty big part of the February discussion, and that's coming from the American Burn Association, I believe, right?
Correct, correct. So they have dedicated the first full week in February to bring attention to this issue, which I think is really important. And they have a cool theme every year. And this year it happens to be from amps to zaps. So it's kind of playing off the alphabet there, and
Mm-hmm.
a really good way to, start these conversations as a family, start to talk to your children who, again, with this whole COVID world that we're still living in, may have opportunities where they're home by themselves and may get into an incident where a burn could, cost them a major injury or cost them their life. So it is an important topic, and I'm glad that we're able to bring some awareness to it, shed some light on it today.
Well, and I know as well in this month's newsletter from the Progressive Agriculture Foundation and Progressive Agriculture Safety Days, you guys touch on a story from, I believe, about 7 or 8 years ago of an Iowa family. And it's just one of those many stories that unfortunately, has a sad component to it. And it's things that we don't want to hear about when it comes to burn related injuries and or deaths.
You are exactly right. It does sting. And when this story came to us, we knew that we needed to tell the story, because if it can reach one family and they can think, oh, that could happen to me, I am going to take action and make sure we can prevent this from happening to my children. It's important. That's what we are. We're storytellers, and we want to do that to help prevent injuries and incidents from occurring. So yes, the Alsup family from Iowa, we actually got the opportunity to meet Jane, which would be Christopher's mother, here back in the fall. She was actually working on a grant-related project with another ag NIOSH center that we work with, and so reached out to us just to talk a little bit about the process and a little bit about resources we had. And when we heard her story, I mean, it broke our hearts, because it could happen to any of us. And so in the morning hours of September 21st of 2013, her son Christopher and his older brother, they decided, they were going to go out and start a fire. Well, dad was still sleeping. Mom had just left for work. So how many of us do things, around, while our parents are not home or, out of sight? And, it should have been innocent. But Christopher had found a gas can, which was, as Jane puts it, very outdated. And what happened was, when he went to pour, gasoline, that the flames just came back and
Mhm.
burnt 90% of his body. So I think Jane got the phone call about the incident happening from her husband as soon as she arrived at work. So I can only imagine, getting to work and having to hear that news, and, just devastating. And you think about how devastating that is to his older brother too, who witnessed the incident. It's hard enough as a family, but to actually have to see that and think, probably have that remorse too, the survivor's remorse that he was okay and his brother lost his life. So it's such a tragic story. And, they're very passionate about gas can exchange programs in their area, and
Mhm.
just making sure that, we're getting rid of those outdated gas cans and getting ones that have that flame arrestor on them, and also keeping them in a safe place. That is all, make sure it's out of the reach of children, because if it is accessible, again, more of an opportunity for the kids to to get in trouble.
Yeah, and a very sad story. I know the family introduced the Legacy of Christopher Alsop Foundation back in 2017, so they're continuing to raise awareness about that subject. And gas cans and fires, that's just one way that burns can occur. And I know you guys share in this month's newsletter a few ways you can prevent burn-related injuries, Jana.
Yes, we definitely do. So, just to put this in perspective and how big this issue is, approximately in the U.S. and Canada, because that's where our safety days cover predominantly, nearly 450,000 people seek medical attention for burn injuries each year. And just if we look back, I think the most recent data from 2014 shared that 3,275 lives were lost because of burn related incidents. So it is an issue. And so I am glad that we're able to talk about that a little bit more. Now, one area that we focus on, especially since the American Burn Association is focusing on electrical burns this year, is talking about electric safety, because that is and has been for the past few years the number one topic that has been taught at Progressive Agriculture Safety Days. So I think each year we, just in 2019 alone, that's probably our best statistics right now, because 2020 was our COVID year. We had a lot of virtual going on, which we still taught electric safety, but our best numbers are from 2019, where we reached 50,000 youth on that subject. So it is really important. So some of the messages we try to talk to the youth on are always making sure that they're checking for overhead power lines that might be down. Also looking down. We have so many utilities underground now, so that can be an issue. So always look down. So look up, look down. Always obey the signs. The signs are there for a reason. So if it says danger, it means danger. It doesn't mean play area. And then also, we like to talk to them about what to do if there would be power lines that would happen to fall on their farm equipment or on a vehicle that they're in, because we actually have a success story, and Bernard shares this often, about a young man who went through our program and years later was on the farm, and I think he ran into some overhead lines and excuse me, fell on his equipment. And of course his mom came out and she's like, get out of the tractor. And he was like, no, he knew that his safest place was to stay there and have his mom call 911. And that was the best way, because if he would have gotten out of that vehicle, he would have been electrocuted and lost his life. So these messages, they do resonate, and maybe it's not the day of our event, but maybe it's months, years down the road. And that's what's really important to us. So I do have some good advice or some tips too for parents. So I mentioned the best thing is to talk to your parents or talk to your children as parents, especially this time where kids are home alone a lot more frequently. So 73% of the burns or burn related injuries start at home. So that's why it is so important to start those conversations. So a couple key tips here. I have 5 key tips. And the first one is to make sure if you use lighters and matches, make sure you're doing those safely. And again, just like the gas can, keep it out of reach of children. If they know where you store those, they can crawl up there and find it. So make sure you're storing it in a safe place that they're not going to be able to find it and utilize it when you're not around. Don't leave children unattended around flames. So everything from campfires, candles, barbecue grills. Try to have a kid-free zone, and sometimes that's about 3 feet, or if you're in Canada, 1 meter away from where open flames are, and that's really going to help prevent an injury. And then if you're cooking, kids love to help in the kitchen. I have 2 girls, and they help me a lot while we were home during the year and kind of quarantined from going out and going to restaurants. So they like to help, but sometimes it's best to use those back burners, because then it gives you almost another safe area or a layer of protection when you're cooking. So always use covers to protect and keep fingers out of outlets. So I have a lot of friends that have had I've been to baby showers, and we have baby showers coming up, and that's one thing I love to grab is the outlet protectors. It's sometimes not the first thing that's on your mind, but protecting that from little fingers, because once little kids start crawling and walking, that's where they go to try to put their toys in or put their fingers in. So try to keep those covered. And then also electrical cords, with power strips and such, keep them. There's a lot of water sources in our kitchen and bathrooms sometimes where we have those located, and that's where a lot of incidents can occur for women that use hair dryers, curling irons, even phone chargers for all. That can prevent an injury or present an injury if you are using it near water sources. So that's something to keep in mind. And then last but not least, keep accelerants such as gasoline and propane outside of the home and locked up. Just like the story we mentioned earlier, maybe if that container was locked up and also stored outside the home in a shed, in a barn, somewhere else, it would have helped prevent an injury, an incident.
Well, all great insight as always, Jana. And of course, the Progressive Agriculture Foundation, Progressive Agriculture Safety Days, you're on that mission to provide education to kids. And, you mentioned 2020 and COVID, and that kind of moved things virtually. And we're still kind of on that virtual platform, but hoping that you can move back to in-person events here later this year.
Yes, we have a great committee together made up of several of our board members, staff, and others that are in the safety world. And we are looking month by month. And right now we are going to still continue with virtual events through April 1st. But there is some light at the end of the tunnel. We're hoping possibly in the spring, depending on, again, the numbers, that possibly we can move into school settings and still have some school events in the spring. And hopefully as we get to fall, things may be back to normal. But we are really beefing up the virtual resources here in the next couple months. So we did have a lot here in 2020, but we want to have even more for 2021 for our coordinators, because we had some record numbers this year of applications, 492, I believe. So
wow.
Folks know that there's still an issue with safety and health, and they want to make sure that they're bringing it to the forefront, whether it's, through the computer or in person. And we do appreciate that. So,
well, Jana, if folks want to learn more about some of those virtual components you guys have, or just learn more about Progressive Ag Safety Days in general, how can they do that?
best ways to visit our website is www.progressiveag.org. There they're going to find our contact information, email, phone numbers, more about the program, success stories, a lot of things that I mentioned today. That's probably their best bet. And also, if they have stories, I encourage, if you're listening in and you have a story that you think could prevent an injury from occurring, just like Jane when she reached out and gave me permission to share her story, we would love to hear it, because that is really what can make a difference. You and I can talk about being safe, but when a family member has been touched by this and can share their experience in the effort to prevent something from happening, it speaks volumes.
Well, and of course, again, progressiveag.org, progressiveag.org, and the Progressive Agriculture Foundation is a nonprofit, and you can help send a child to a safety day. Just text the word safety day to 44321, and they can learn more information about supporting you guys as well on your website. And Jana, I appreciate the time for our February safety message. As always, thanks so much for joining us.
Same here, Jesse. Thank you so much for helping us get these important messages out.
That's Jana Davidson with the Progressive Agriculture Foundation joining us for our February safety message. I'm Jesse Allen reporting.